Okay, so let's take a look at the 2013 free response question number 2, which is a game theory oligopoly question. We have 2 restaurants in College Town. One is Pie Crust, the other is La Pizza. Each company has to decide whether to advertise or not advertise, and they've created a payoff matrix for us that tells us what the daily profits will be based on each firm's decision. Question A asks us, what strategy should Pie Crust choose if La Pizza chooses to advertise? Explain your answer. Okay, so if we look at the payoff matrix, if Pie Crust is looking at what La Pizza does, if La Pizza advertises, so I've highlighted those in pink, if La Pizza chooses to advertise, if Pie Crust advertises, they'll make $250. If Pie Crust does not advertise and La Pizza advertises, they'll only make $180. Therefore, Pie Crust will choose to advertise if La Pizza advertises. Now, question B asks if La Pizza has a dominant strategy. Well, let's take a look at La Pizza's options. If Pie Crust advertises, so that would be this range, if Pie Crust advertises, La Pizza makes more money if they do not advertise. They make $300 instead of $200. However, if Pie Crust does not advertise, La Pizza makes more money if they do advertise. So, since they have a different strategy that's more effective in each situation, La Pizza does not have a dominant strategy. So that's your answer for part B. There's no dominant strategy for La Pizza. Okay, now part C asks us, what is the Nash equilibrium? Now, Nash equilibrium, defined by Princeton, is no participant can gain by a change of strategy as long as other participants remain unchanged. Now, the way I like to think of that also is, what is the safe strategy for me? Let's take a look at why. I've already marked it on the answer key here. This is the Nash equilibrium for these firms. Now, why is that? If we look at Pie Crust, they have a dominant strategy. What is their dominant strategy? Pie Crust makes more money in this scenario if they advertise. They also make more money here if they advertise. So no matter what, Pie Crust is going to advertise. Okay? But if I look at La Pizza, if Pie Crust is definitely going to advertise, what is La Pizza going to do then? Well, the safe thing for them to do is to not advertise. Another way I can look at this is I can look at each firm individually and say, okay, if I'm Pie Crust, does La Pizza have an option? Oh, I'm sorry, if I'm Pie Crust, and if La Pizza stays unchanged, if La Pizza stays here, does Pie Crust gain from moving to the no advertise quadrant? No, they do not. Okay, on the flip side of that, if La Pizza assumes that Pie Crust isn't going to change, that it's going to advertise no matter what, if that strategy remains unchanged, will La Pizza benefit from advertising? No, they will not. So the Nash equilibrium is here because if each competitor assumes the other's position remains unchanged, they're not going to benefit from trying to switch or change. That's the Nash equilibrium. If you were to go through these other quadrants, you would find that there could be a gain by moving. But when we assume that our competitor is not going to change and we don't have a gain from that, that's the Nash equilibrium. I also would refer you to the Khan Academy links that I have in Schoology that go through, there are 2 videos that go through game theory also. Okay, part D says, suppose that advertising costs increase by $60 per day. Redraw the payoff matrix to reflect the effect of higher advertising costs. So what we have to look at is only the scenarios where the firm has chosen to advertise. So I'm going to zoom in on what I've done to the payoff matrix to answer part D, because we were actually supposed to redraw the payoff matrix. In the first scenario, both firms are advertising. If both firms have to spend an extra $60 a day on advertising, that reduces their daily profit by $60. So we deduct, and the payoff would be $190 and $140. In this quadrant, Pie Crust is not advertising, but La Pizza is, so we would deduct the $60 from La Pizza's payoff, and it reduces their payoff to $440. In our quadrant at the top right, Pie Crust is advertising, La Pizza is not. So the $60 is only deducted from Pie Crust's payoff, not from La Pizza, because they're not advertising. And then in the bottom quadrant, neither firm would choose to advertise, so there would be no lost profits because they're not advertising, so they don't have increased costs. So I hope this helps you review question 2 from the 2013 AP Microeconomics exam.